Hello everyone, my name is Chip. Today we're doing a couple of test games with a red-white taxes deck I've been brewing. It's nowhere near finished, but I wanted to see what it could do. The main focus of this deck is Chancellor of the Annex. Chancellor of the Annex is a 7-mana angel, however we're not ever planning on casting it in this deck. If we ever cast it, something has gone horribly wrong. It has the effect that we may reveal it in our opening hand, and if we do, when each opponent casts their first spell of the game, counter that spell unless they play 1. The goal of the deck is to use Chancellor of the Annex to slow our opponent down a turn or two, make them play off kilter, so we can get our taxing effects down. As many of you know, Companion was an incredibly powerful and broken mechanic, and some think it still is even with the current changes. This is because it effectively gives you an 8th card in your opening hand. The issue with cards like Chancellor of the Annex is it effectively gives you a 6-card opening hand at best. To offset that, we're running cards like Seasoned Pyromancer, so we can discard cards like Chancellor of the Annex, get a couple of tokens, and redraw fresh cards, and we're also testing out Force of Virtue. Being able to pitch a card that you can't cast to cast Force of Virtue for free seems pretty good. It also gives our deck a little bit of extra punch, which Death and Taxes really needs. Alright, so super quick rundown of the deck. We're running 3 Aether Vials, 4 Path to Exile, 4 Giver of Runes, 3 Goblin Crater Maker, testing these out as an alternative form of removal, and it gives us game against things like Tron. If they ever resolve a big Ugin or something, maybe we can take it out and get lucky. We're running 3 Thalia Guardian of Thraben, 4 Leonin Arbiter, 4 Seasoned Pyromancer, 4 Magus of the Moon, 2 Loris of the Dream Den. Hopefully we can recast our Goblin Crater Makers, get back Giver of Runes, things like that, keep us in the game. 2 Force of Virtue, which we're always hoping to cast for free by discarding a Chancellor, and 4 Chancellor of the Annex. For lands, we're running 4 Sunbaked Canyon, 4 Sacred Foundry, 4 Ghost Quarter, and 11 Plains. Sideboard, there is no sideboard. I haven't brewed it yet, and it's like I always say, brewing is hard. And with that, it's on with the games. Alright, we win the die roll, we decide to go first. We get a good opening hand, we've got the Aether Vial, the Thalia, and the Chancellor. Everything else is just gravy, so we decide to keep. Opponent keeps their 7, so we're going to reveal our Chancellor of the Annex. We play our Sacred Foundry, untapped, run out our Aether Vial, and pass the turn. Opponent plays a Verdant Catacombs, casts a Mistress Bauble into our Chancellor of the Annex, decides they've seen enough, and scoops up the entire match. And that's pretty much the reason you play the deck. Alright, we win the die roll and decide to go first. We get a keepable 7, opponent also keeps their 7, we shock in our Sacred Foundry, run out our Aether Vial, and pass the turn. Opponent plays a Blackleaf Cliffs, and casts Inquisition of Kozilek. They take our Giver of Runes, and they pass to us. We're going to tick up our Vial, we draw a Path to Exile, we shock in the Sacred Foundry, and we're just going to run out our Leonin Arbiter, and pass it there. Opponent plays a Snow-Covered Swamp, and has another Inquisition. They take our Goblin Crater Maker, and they pass back to us. We're going to tick up our Aether Vial, we draw a Sacred Foundry, shock it in, and just deploy the Magus. Opponent cycles a Forgotten Cave, and we swing in for 2 with our Leonin Arbiter. Awkwardly enough, we've taken ourselves off white mana, but our opponent still has access to red and black, but we still have the Vial. Opponent plays a Snow-Covered Forest, so they now have any colour they want, and they Maelstrom Pulse our Vial. So much for having a Vial. They pass to us, we draw a Thalia, Guardian of Thraben that we can't cast, so we decide just to get in for 4. Opponent takes it down to 14, and we pass to them. Opponent plays a Verdant Catacombs that's a mountain, and runs out a 4/5 Tarmogoyf, and they pass to us. Well, we're the luckiest players in the world and we draw a Plains, so we play the Plains, and we just path the Tarmogoyf. In response, our opponent terminates our Leonin Arbiter. Opponent gets another Snow-Covered Swamp, and we get in for 2. And we'll just pass the turn there. Opponent plays a Stomping Ground that's a mountain, runs out another Tarmogoyf, and they pass to us. We draw another Magus of the Moon. We run out our Thalia, and we pass the turn. Opponent plays a Raging Ravine, swings in for 5 with their Goyf. We take it down to 9, and they pass to us. We draw a Leonin Arbiter, but we're running out our other Magus, and we swing in for 4. Our opponent terminates our first Magus of the Moon, takes 2 down to 10, and we pass the turn. Opponent goes to combat, swings in for 5, we don't block, and we take it down to 4, and they pass to us. We draw another Magus of the Moon. We swing in for 2 with our Thalia, opponent takes it down to 8, and then we cast our freshly drawn Magus of the Moon. We'll pass the turn there. Opponent swings in with the Goyf, we have to block to stay in the game, so we'll throw our Magus under the bus, and they pass the turn to us. We draw a Loris of the Dream Den. We run out the Leonin Arbiter, and we're just going to get in for 2. Taking our opponent down to 6. This means they need 2 removal spells to get in for lethal with the Goyf. We pass to them. They go to combat, swing with the Goyf. We're going to throw Magus under the bus again, Magus dies, unlocking our lands, and we go to our turn. We draw a useless Chancellor, but that's okay, because we deploy Loris, lets us cast our Giver of Runes from graveyard, we opt not to swing into the Raging Ravine, and we pass to our opponent. Opponent cracks the Verdant Catacombs, failed to pay the Arbiter cost, plays a Nurturing Peatland, cracks it immediately, and gets a Scavenging Ooze. They pass the turn there. Fortunately for us, they let us go to our main phase. Scavenging Ooze can't stop us casting with Loris because Loris doesn't target, just allows us to cast. So we cast our Goblin Crater Maker from graveyard, and then we're going to path to exile that Goyf that's been giving us so much trouble. We swing in with both Loris and Thalia. Opponent blocks the Loris with the Scavenging Ooze. They go to eat our Magus of the Moon. We give our Loris pro green. They eat another Magus of the Moon, making the Skoos a 4/4. We hit them back down to 5 and gain 3 life up to 7, and we pass to them. Opponent casts a Bloodbraid Elf and cascades into Thoughtseize. They choose not to cast the Thoughtseize, play a Verdant Catacombs, and pass to us. We draw another Leonin Arbiter, and they scoop up the game. Now this opponent didn't come back after sideboarding. I guess they didn't like what we had going on. They never even saw the Chancellor, so maybe they just really hate taxes. Alright, we lost the die roll. We mulligan away our one-lander to another one-lander. We mulligan that away. We decide to keep this one even though it is a one-lander. It's got the Chancellor, it's got a Plains and an Aether Vial. We throw Leonin Arbiter and Loris to the bottom, reveal the Chancellor, and away we go. Opponent plays a Mountain, passes to us. We draw a Plains, we'll play the Plains, and run out our Aether Vial. And we'll just pass the turn there. Opponent plays a Blood Crypt, shocking themselves, casts a Haggle, and pays the extra 1 so it resolves. They discard a life from the loam and they dredge it back, putting a Golgari Thug, a Blood Crypt, and a Prized Amalgam in their bin. They pass to us. We tick up our Aether Vial, draw a Giver of Runes, play the Plains, run out our Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and we'll pass the turn there. Opponent dredges, hitting a Creeping Chill, hitting us for 3, they gain 3. They play a Wooded Foothills and crack it, get a Stomping Ground, shocking themselves down to 18, and casts a Cathartic Reunion. They dredge another Creeping Chill and hit 2 Narcomoebas. Narcomoeba triggers the Prized Amalgam in the bin, so thanks to Creeping Chill and Narcomoeba, Silver Smote and Prized Amalgam will return. We're going to vial in our Giver of Runes in their end step. We tick up Vial to 2 and we draw a Giver of Runes. We swing in with our Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, hitting them for 2, and we'll pass to them holding up path. Opponent swings in with everything. We take it down to 6. They unearth their Ox of Agonis, dredge into a bunch, and we decide to scoop it up there. Alright, we lost, so we get to go first this time. We mull our hand. We decide this one's worth keeping. We throw a land to the bottom. Our opponent mulligans to 6. We start on Sunbaked Canyon and run out our Aether Vial. Opponent plays a Stomping Ground, tapped, passes to us. We tick up our Aether Vial, draw a Ghost Quarter, play the Ghost Quarter, and run out our Thalia. We pass to them, they play a Bloodstained Mire, and in their end step, we vial in the Giver of Runes. We tick up our Vial, we draw a Magus of the Moon. We shock in our Sacred Foundry, and we run out the Magus. We swing in for 2, opponent takes it down to 18, and we pass the turn there. Opponent plays a 3-drop Cathartic Reunion, dredging a life from the loam. Important thing to note is we actually currently have no white mana, so we decide to keep the Vial on 2. We draw a Path to Exile we can't cast, but our opponent's had enough and decides to concede. Opponent gets to go first this time. We mulligan into a Chancellor of the Annex. Reveal the Chancellor of the Annex. Our opponent plays a Bloodstained Mire, cracks it immediately for a Stomping Ground, tapped. We flash in the Force of Virtue, ditching our Chancellor of the Annex in their end step. We draw a Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. We're going to play the Plains, holding up path and pass. Opponent plays a Blood Crypt, tapped, and passes to us. We draw a Ghost Quarter. We're going to play our Plains, and we run out our Thalia. They haven't paid for the Chancellor yet, so the Thalia might stop them being able to cast something for a long time. And we'll pass the turn there. Opponent plays a Gemstone Mine, casts a Cathartic Reunion, forgetting about the Chancellor of the Annex trigger, discards a life from the loam, and doesn't get to draw. And they pass to us. We draw Loris of the Dream Den. We're going to play the Ghost Quarter, run out our Leonin Arbiter, which is a 3/3 thanks to the Force of Virtue. And we're going to crack our Ghost Quarter, targeting their Stomping Ground. And we swing in with our Thalia for 3. We pass to our opponent. They try to pay costs, but they can't, so they pass to us. We draw a Magus of the Moon that we can't cast. We swing in for 6. Opponent takes it down to 10, and we pass. Our opponent dredges, hits 2 Narcomoebas, which will bring back their Prized Amalgams. Prized Amalgams come back in their end step, and they pass to us. We draw planes. We swing in with the Arbiter, keeping Thalia back on blocks. Opponent takes it down to 7, and we run out our Loris of the Dream Den. Opponent chooses not to attack in their turn, and passes to us. We draw planes. We swing in with our Thalia. Our opponent goes for the double block with the Prized Amalgam. We could recast Thalia with the Loris of the Dream Den, but instead we opt to path one of the Prized Amalgams, and our opponent scoops it up. Well, for a deck with no graveyard hate, I think we did very well. Alright, well that was just a couple of the practice games that we had going on. Not many game 2s. A lot of people don't like to play best of 3, I find. Those were definitely some of our better games where we got to go off with the Chancellor or the Annex. Magus of the Moon definitely puts in a lot of work. I'm not sure if the deck actually even needs red. Seasoned Pyromancer is very good and very powerful, so is Magus of the Moon. But I think maybe Force of Virtue and effects like Smuggler's Copter, maybe Gaia Reach Sanitarium might be enough to offset the Chancellor of the Annex. But yeah, I'm very happy with the way it's going. It's definitely not finished. There's a lot of work to put into it. But let me know what you think. Is running Chancellor worth potentially being down a card in your opening hand? Well, that's been this week's video. I hope you had fun watching, and until next time, have fun.